Hello, I'm Madge Strong, and I am the current mayor of the City of Willits. I've been on City Council for 8 years, and it's very exciting and rewarding to try to serve the city as well as we can in city government. So I wanted to start by just saying a couple things are coming up soon as we are filming this. And the main ones are that the city council and staff are setting priorities for the coming years. And we're trying to look at what does the public want us to be doing? What are we able to do within our resources? So if you would like to participate in that, Wednesday the 17th at 6:30, there's a special session. And Saturday, March 20th, is a slightly longer goal-setting workshop. And then sometime following that, we may be able to send out some kind of survey monkey to get more public input. And certainly public input is always welcome. So if you are interested in attending any of those, they're probably mostly going to be by Zoom. I would suggest you contact City Clerk Kathy Moorhead, and that's C. Moorhead, Moorhead, at cityofwillits.org. And you can get notices of all of our public meetings there and get the Zoom links and what you need to participate. Since the pandemic, we haven't had as many opportunities, and it isn't quite as easy as it is to just pop into a meeting. But you can attend by Zoom or by phone. So we still want to hear from you all. So this is kind of my first report as mayor. I was mayor back in 2018, and then I'm mayor again this year. And I wanted to just sort of let you know what's going on at the city and give you opportunities to get in touch with me or with the city through the city clerk on issues that you care about. So in sort of a big overall view, this goal setting is going to kind of set the stage for what we do the next fiscal year in our budget and probably for several years to come, because part of the budget is also capital improvements programs. And we can't do everything, but we want to do the most important things. And I've already heard from some constituents that housing and economic development are among the high priorities, but you might have some other things you want us to do and flesh those out. What particular projects? So encourage you to participate. Looking a little bit into the past, as most of you probably know, our former city manager, Stephanie Garabrandt Sierra, retired at the very end of 2020. And during her 3 years as city manager, with her help, the staff, and the city council, we accomplished quite a bit of important stuff. Among them were, of course, dealing with COVID has been high on everybody's we have to deal with it list, and trying to make sure that we're safe as a community. And we've been actually really very fortunate in our community. And I hope all of you are continuing to be safe. And if you can, be tested. And if you're eligible to get the vaccines, I encourage you to do that. Testing, by the way, is helpful because the more negative tests we have, the lower rating we will have. In other words, it'll enable us to open businesses back up and other public kinds of things. So getting tested, even if you're absolutely sure that you don't have it, great. It helps everybody. Okay, the airport has been upgraded during that time. We did pass Measure K last November, which raised a 3/4 cent sales tax for the city, which was really desperately needed and is going to completely enable us to balance our budget and look at some other things that we haven't been able to accomplish for a long time. So that was a major accomplishment last year. The whole project on downtown has been completed as of just a few weeks ago, but that was all of the work to enable that happen during 2020, and our downtown is looking really good. So thank you for that. We've been working with community development on quite a few projects. And by the way, going into the future on that one, we really need to upgrade our general plan, which is the kind of guidance for all of the land uses in the whole city. Our current general plan, I think, is 1993, and that's not exactly what you'd call current. So we really need to update that, and it is the blueprint for what we want to do going into the future, which includes things like providing better opportunities for housing and commercial and industrial development and all of those things. Community development has been very busy. There's a lot going on with engineering, the usual streets and so forth. And the police department, you're all aware that we lost a police chief who was only there for about 6 weeks, I think. And I'm not able to comment on that. It's a personnel and potential litigation matter. But we now have a very competent and very well-seasoned interim chief of police, who's Fabian Lizarraga. He was at Fort Bragg as the police chief there for about 4 years and has been in enforcement for, I think, 30 years at least, maybe even more. So he is our interim police chief and doing a great job. Another major accomplishment from the past city manager was refinancing the sewage treatment bonds, which saved us, and I don't even know it right offhand, but hundreds of thousands of dollars, because we got a much better rate on our sewage treatment bonds. And the other thing we did in 2020 was we bought the solar array up at our water treatment plant, which had been a private partnership where we paid, unfortunately, not a very good deal on our electricity for running the water treatment plant, and buying it has really helped us save money going into the future. Our electricity use at both the sewer treatment and the water treatment plant are among our highest electricity users in the city. So those are important things. Getting more towards the current situation, starting at the beginning of January, we have a new city manager, Brian Bender. He was previously city manager in Montana. I can't remember right offhand the name of the town, but very similar sized community to Willits. He is very seasoned as a city manager and as a planner, and he's thrilled to be here in Northern California, and he is really putting his heart into it. So we're very pleased to have Brian Bender on board. We are searching for a new permanent police chief. Our interim police chief may be one of the candidates, but we're open to candidates for police chief. We are, as I said during the beginning, we're doing goal setting for the coming years and really want public input on what our goals should be. We're working on the budget. That gets adopted usually in June of this year for the coming fiscal year. And thank you again, those of you who voted yes on Measure K. It is making it possible for us to continue as a city and to be able to fund adequately some of the things that we've just been scraping by. I think without it, we were looking at not being able to even continue after a few years. Every year we were drawing down on our reserves, and we couldn't keep doing that. So the budget is going to probably be a much happier document this year than it has been in the past several years. And we also need to be careful because it isn't an unlimited supply of money, and we want to spend your money wisely and judiciously and make sure we do the best things we can with your money to make the city a really wonderful place to live. We are working on the flood maps. That's something that our engineering staff work closely with the FEMA on. It affects a lot of homeowners in our city. Because if you're in the flood zone, your insurance rates go way up. So that's something we're currently working on. There's also a proposed groundwater well. I'll go into a little bit of detail on that because I think it's important. For the entire time I've been on city council, and really for pretty much the history of the city, we've been totally reliant on our two reservoirs, Centennial and Morris. In other words, surface water, the treatment plant up there at the reservoirs, and then one main pipe that brings that water, treated water, down to the city. 4 years ago, when we were in a horrible drought, we approved as an emergency measure, a groundwater well improvement at Elias Well, which is at the very north end of the city, north of the sewage treatment plant area. And then that has now been permanently approved, and it is operational. And that has really helped as a supplemental source of water. We're not, we're not dropping our reliance on those reservoirs. They're really good quality water, and we're really happy to replenish them every year as long as there's rain. But in the event of a really severe drought or some catastrophe, an earthquake that takes the pipeline down, or contamination event, to be solely reliant on those reservoirs didn't seem like a sustainable, safe situation. So we now have the Elias well, which is especially important. We can mix the groundwater with the reservoir water depending on the conditions that are happening, like at the lake. If the reservoir gets low, it gets warm, it gets algae blooms, we have to put some kind of chemicals to counteract that. So we're able to be much more fine-tuned with our water supply and make sure that it's always high quality and sufficient. But the Elias well has a fairly limited capacity. So the city is proposing a second groundwater well that's on the same line, just in between the Elias well and the treatment facility there for that groundwater. And we were going to try to approve that or bring it up to the city council now, in early March. But instead, we want to answer people's questions. There were quite a few comments on the environmental analysis of it to make sure that we're not impacting the private wells in the valley or the surface water in the valley, and that the quality of that water is going to be completely acceptable after it's treated. So the engineering staff is taking some more time to answer the public's questions and make sure that we've really looked into it fully. So if you are one of the people that would like to know more about that and get notified when it's coming up for review, I would suggest you contact the engineering department of the city, and it's engineering@cityofwillits.org. Or you can call the main city number and talk to engineering. But then you'll get on the list, you'll get notified, you'll get a copy of the environmental review and all of that good stuff. I think the other really kind of important controversial issue that has came up very recently was the use of the old Howard Hospital. And you probably already are up to date on that, but in case you aren't, the county Measure B committee and the county board of supervisors was really wanting to find out, was this a go or not a go to put a psychiatric health facility there at Old Howard Hospital. We formed an ad hoc committee at the city council level to meet with them and get all the information we could get about what was involved and what were the pros and the cons and any alternatives. And we were kind of ready to have a public forum. And just about that point, the Howard Foundation, which owns the old hospital, got an offer. And they accepted the offer, and it's now in a 60-day escrow. So unless there's some obstacle that comes up during the escrow period, private development, and they have not divulged the name of that, we don't know who it is, but it's apparently an entity that deals with old hospitals and converts them into health facilities. And I don't know exactly what kind of health facilities. So that's something that'll be coming down the pike. If it goes ahead, we will find out. And that will, of course, be subject to a review by the city to make sure it's consistent with our codes and all of that. But it will be really a pleasure if we can in fact make a good, beneficial use of the old hospital. It's a wonderful location, it's a wonderful facility, it's been sitting there vacant, and that's not doing anybody any good. So I'm sure we can use some health facilities. I also think it'd be a great place for senior housing. You know, there's things that would be wonderful to serve our community. So the city isn't being put on the spot to decide whether a PUF unit, a psychiatric health facility, is approved or not, because it got substituted with this other development. So anyway, those are the highlights of what's going on right now. There's a couple other things that are cited on the radar, I suppose you'd say. One of them is that there is a proposal by the California Conservation Corps to use a site that's right across the street from the Howard Hospital, the new hospital. They're on East Hill Road. That will be a training facility for all of Northern California Conservation Corps. That is going to be really exciting when it comes in, because they're going to have, I think, up to 200 trainees who will be living there for a month or two at a time, plus a permanent staff, which will be their teachers, and they will go out and do good work, including work here locally on our Rails to Trails project, and up north on the Great Redwood Trail. And just having a wonderful facility there with a couple hundred people is a boost to our economy. I mean, they'll come into town and eat at our restaurants when our restaurants are open and buy stuff. And, you know, so we're really excited about that. And as we move forward with general plan and zoning and all of those things that take a long time, we really want to have more housing opportunities, and housing and business opportunities are sort of symbiotic. As we improve our housing opportunities, that feeds our businesses, and as we have business opportunities, it brings housing in. So I think I see a really bright future, and it's a question of how long does it take, how many resources does it take. A lot of it doesn't get done by the city government. City government tries to enable these things to happen, make it easy, make it legal, all of those things, supply the utilities and whatnot. But private enterprise is going to, I think, see some real opportunities here with the Great Redwood Trail coming and all of those kinds of things. So I think for now, that's my first report as mayor, about 3 months in. And I hope to do this, you know, every few months or maybe quarterly, and would appreciate anybody who wants to comment, get in touch with me. And my phone number is 459-1493. And I prefer that you use my home email just because it's easier for me to deal with. I have my address book and all that good stuff there. And that is mstrong@willitsonline.com. Or you can use my city email. I do check it. I just don't check it quite as often. And that is mstrong@cityofwillits.org. All of the city council members are accessible that way. First initial, last name, and cityofwillits.org. You know, we're happy. We love Willits, and we want to make it the best place to live. So thank you for being with us on this journey. Thank you.